Thank you for attending another ClinEdge webinar series. My name is Simone, and I will be your moderator today. ClinEdge hosts webinars each month partnering with experts in the industry. The ClinEdge webinar series covers various topics on clinical research, including, but not limited to, operations and optimization, patient recruitment and retention, financial services, technology, and more. We invite and encourage experts from sponsors, CROs, site vendors, and health professionals to present in our webinar series to help promote learning, idea exchange, and progress. Our mission is to spread inspiration for clinical professionals by clinical professionals. We really would like to hear from you and would like to include your voice in the conversation. So ask questions, share comments, even challenge your ideas. Use the question and answer panel on the right side of your GoToWebinar sidebar to share at any time during the webinar. We'll also have a few poll questions, and those will pop up right on your screen, but more about those later. I'd like to introduce today's presenters, Neil Schmitz and Elise Tawfiq. Neil Schmitz is the co-founder of Research Hive. He's been working in the medical field since 2007, initially with a large ophthalmology practice and clinical research, then in a large cardiology practice as an administrator. Shortly thereafter, Neil founded a research site within the cardiology practice, which continues to be a global leader in the recruitment and retention. Neil's experience in the management of private practice, coupled with his experience in clinical research, has led his team to dominate their field. In their most recent global study, Neil's site in Houston became the top enroller worldwide with 186 randomized subjects to date. Only 6% have dropped out after 3 years of participation. With consistent passion for the clinical research industry, Neil and his team have developed a mobile application over the course of 2 years called Research Hive, designed specifically to allow other sites globally to have similar success. Research Hive combines the knowledge of numerous industry leaders wrapped up in a simple and easy-to-use package. Research Hive targets the primary issue for all sites, recruitment. By leveraging technology, Research Hive allows all physicians and staff at a site to immediately access important details about all of their studies, while also allowing them to refer patients securely. Elise Tawfiq, she's the product manager of RealTime Software Solutions, has over 15 years experience in the clinical research industry. She managed a research site in which she was responsible for oversight of all clinical research activities to include business development, patient contract negotiation, recruitment planning, oversight of clinical research staff, and management of data. Currently, Elise is the product manager for the global pay and tax programs at RealTime Software Solutions. Her experience at the site level greatly assists her clients in finding creative ways to excel in the industry. Elise connects site and sponsors with payment solutions that are secure, convenient, and innovative. So once again, if you have any questions during the presentation, please submit your questions at any time in the box in the right side panel of your screen. There will be about 10 to 15 minutes at the end for a question and answer session. I'll be asking questions out loud at that time. Any questions not addressed may be answered in a follow-up blog post. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Neil.
Thanks, Simone. And hello, everyone. I am getting my screen here so you guys can see. Okay. All right, I think everyone can see my screen. So thanks again, and I'll just kind of jump right in. The first thing I wanted to just kind of everybody is who's the call, and this is our estimation of who we think would be participating in the call today. But we were going to go ahead and ask. So you could be a staff member, a coordinator, an assistant, a research manager, or a project manager at a CRO or a sponsor. So if you could answer the poll and tell us which category you fall into, then we'll have an idea of who we're talking to today. We'll take just a few minutes, a few seconds here, let everybody answer, and then we'll move on. Wish we had back music. I should have thought of that.
Yeah, we'll just leave the poll open for a few seconds longer. It looks like we're still getting some votes.
Cool. So while you guys are all answering, everybody on this list could benefit from today's talk because we're really trying to speak to what technology is available, what we hear from our sites. Elise and I have talked to a lot of sites over the last few years, and we hear a lot of the pains. So it's our job to try to find solutions and try to help you with solutions. So some of the solutions we're going to talk about today are solutions that we actually are involved with, myself with Research Hive and Elise with RealTime. Others we have no involvement with whatsoever, but they're really helpful and you guys could really benefit from them. So cool. So it looks like we've got a pretty good mix of people. So that's awesome. It's good to see. So, all right, I'll kind of keep going here. It's also good for you guys to know who we're talking to as well. So on to the next slide. We were going to ask, just kind of diving into, the why we're talking today. Really, we hear a lot from sites that, technology becomes a really big challenge, and sometimes it's a scary to consider, especially when you're busy and you've got a lot of things going on. Most coordinators have a lot of patients they're dealing with, and a lot of administrative work, and a lot of research assistants as well. So, if you're on the management side, it looks like we had a pretty good pool of managers on the call as well, and CROs and sponsors. The idea is to try to help the staff and help the people actually seeing patients every day to be more efficient. So these are just some little anecdotal things that we thought of that could help you sort of identify yourself as somebody who might be resistant to technology or resistant to some software that might be out there. So we don't want you to try just abandoning everything you're currently using. If your paper calendar is your friend and that's where you like to live to manage your day, then don't just abandon it overnight. If you run your to-do list from your inbox in Outlook, that's your prerogative as well. It's just we're going to talk about a couple of things that could really help you maybe do things a little bit easier and communicate a little bit better. Excel is kind of the biggest one that we hear. Elise and I kind of talked about this as well. Recently, Excel seems to be everyone's go-to for running an entire research department. My site included. We've been guilty of the same thing. Whether you're using Excel to save all your passwords or you're using it to run all your budgets and contracts and everything, it can be a challenge. So, wanted to ask just a couple of questions about that and what you guys may be doing, what you're using in your current environment. So how do you use Excel today? And select all of them. So if you're using it, just, we know that every study you're participating in usually requires 5 to 10 different websites and URLs, passwords that you have to keep track of, tracking payments, tracking referrals or visits that patients are actually doing, and then pre-screening tracking. So we're going to talk about some better solutions that you guys might have, that you might be able to propose to replace Excel in your life to some degree. Not 100%, but there's some things that you could really automate. Kind of let you guys answer these and see what you said, and that'll help us as well.
Okay, great. It looks like we're getting still some votes in.
So again, we're not trying to convince you to just change your entire life in your research department. We're simply just trying to give you some new, fresh ideas that you may not have already known about. that could really help you.
All right, great. It looks like we've gotten to a stop, so I'm going to close the poll now. There you go.
Cool. So interesting. This is good. It looks like the majority of you are using it for tracking patient referrals and visits. And then only a few using it for password management and payments, of course, pre-screening tracking. Yeah, those are the two biggest ones. And 25% not at all. That's interesting too. I imagine maybe people not at sites. So that makes sense. Thanks. So, just wanted to kind of step back a little bit to sort of how have always been historically and or used to be before a lot of this other software was even available. Most everyone's using, a ECRF now, but, if you've been doing research for more than, 7 or 10 years, you're familiar with the case report forms with carbon copies and all the faxing that goes back and forth between the labs and the site and also from referring providers. Phone calls are obviously also a challenge when you're getting doctors, when it comes to talking to a patient. Many of us are still facing this today, where, a doctor just wants to call you and say, hey, I've got a patient, does this patient qualify? Or, hey, I've got this patient, can you call them back? Or can you call this person? For just a random Excel documents. And then if you look, for your running all your calendars, all of your staff in your site. Of course.
Yeah, it looks like it's breaking up just a little bit. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
Sorry, guys. I'll see if I can't. Is that any better? Are you hearing me? Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds better.
Okay. Sorry, guys. So, onto the gist of our presentation today, which is really the study and patient life cycle and how technology can really benefit you at different phases of the study process. These are questions that you really want to know answers to easily and quickly, especially during the pre-award phase, like study feasibility. Everyone has to fill these out before you ever get even offered a contract anymore. So how many patients can you randomize in a month for a particular protocol? And how many staff is it going to take to actually run that trial? But then also, how many staff do you need once the study starts so you can actually achieve the randomization that you committed to? These are questions that are really challenging to answer if you're running everything with Excel, unless you're an Excel expert, of course. But it's really good information to have at your fingertips, so that you don't spend days upon days answering feasibility questionnaires. But then after you get the contract and when you're starting the study, how do you keep track of who's supposed to, whose GCP training is out of date, who's is due and when, whose CV needs updated, everything, all the calibrations, the temp loggers, everything. Keeping track of all the websites and logins and passwords. Then during enrollment, just keeping track of IE criteria. Which informed consent document is for which trial and which one's current. If you're on version 1, version 2, or version 3. And if you print them all out and every time and you disperse them around your research department, you have to go back and throw those all away every time that there's a new one that's released. That becomes a problem, especially if you consent with the wrong one. Keeping track of patients' names, phone numbers, and did you ever even call that patient? You got that phone call from that doctor while you were sitting with another patient drawing their blood or, consenting somebody else, and now you've got to remember and somehow write down that patient's name, phone number, and contact info, and the fact that they might need a ride to the office. And remember to actually call them and do something about it. So the follow-up phase, talking to, how much, figuring out how much you're supposed to pay patients when it comes to their stipends and their compensation, if you're able to do that, how much it is for each visit, sending patients reminders. So, onto some solutions, because I don't want to just, propose all the problems you guys are all aware of. On the pre-contract study feasibility side, CTMS and EMR systems can really help you. EMRs, not so much, but they are helpful. CTMS, if you're using it well and using it properly, you can answer all of these questions about how many staff you need, what the feasibility looks like, and how easy it might be to be able to actually perform a protocol, how many staff it would take per visit, and all these calculations that you want to be able to do, but may not know off the top of your head, and you don't necessarily want to guess, because it can really hurt your department if you commit to one thing and then you can't get anywhere close to that. And then post-contract, during study startup, again, CTMS systems are very helpful. E-regulatory is another one, which is a newer software package that is available where you keep everything electronic and you use electronic signatures and electronic tracking instead of having everything in a rig binder in paper form. But also some of the newer things that a lot of sites, very few sites I talk to even consider, which is project management systems and password keepers. And those two can really, really change your life when it comes to tracking and figuring out what things you should do and when, and also, templating the process. So that way it's a repeatable process that you figure out one time and then it's just repeated every quarter, or every month, or every week, depending on what it is. And then during the enrollment phase, a referral app, for instance, can be really helpful. An IE criteria app is really helpful. Again, CTMS systems can be beneficial in helping track improve enrollment. And then again, password keepers, just because of all the different logins that you need for all the systems. Then during the follow-up in CTMS, password keepers and project management systems can be really useful. So now some of the different, options I want to kind of dive into now as far as a CTMS and what it even is. Some of you on the call are probably already using CTMS systems since you're on the call in the first place. That sort of separates you from a lot of other people. But for those of you that aren't currently using a CTMS, it's a very valuable resource for determining feasibility for a trial, especially financially. If you're managing a site, a CTMS is really what should be running your site and telling you the profitability or lack thereof of any trial. If you're at a big institution, you obviously can't necessarily make a profit, so to speak, but you still have to be financially sound. So this will help you determine that. Figuring out how many staff you need, like I said, and then tracking visits per patient. The tracking visits part is, I think, the easiest way to justify a CTMS if you're purely looking at it from a financial perspective to try to justify it to a group of physicians. Automating the invoicing process alone pays for a CTMS basically in perpetuity because of the volume of cash lost at a site for not invoicing properly whenever you do work that's in your budget, but then the team actually doing the work, the coordinators and the research assistants, they don't know that that's invoiceable. And so the person that actually submits the invoice is almost never the coordinator, I would hope at least. There's usually a person behind the scenes or a manager that's doing that, and keeping track of that will pay dividends if you can simply just invoice when you're supposed to. And then also paying stipends from within the software. A lot of different sites use stipends in different ways, and every sponsor, every study is a little bit different. There's a lot of sponsors that don't manage the process. They simply just add it to your budget, and you're supposed to handle the stipends. A good CTMS, like RealTime, for instance, allows you to actually pay patients from within the software. So your coordinators don't have to log into a separate system. They simply click the visits that they're doing. They click the different items within the visit that they performed. Your automatic invoice is queued up behind the scenes for your manager, and the patient can get their stipend loaded to a prepaid card all within the system. Very useful, incredibly helpful. And there's also other systems out there that allow you to pay stipends on a prepaid card. They work very well. So it's a lot easier than writing checks and then getting somebody who's a signer on the checking account to sign the check. E-regulatory, I touched on that a little bit before, but this is a big one that if your sponsor is on board with, then it can really save you a lot of time. It's relatively new in clinical research, but it's incredibly helpful when it comes to monitoring. The sponsors, when they can get comfortable with it, e-regulatory can really save the sponsors a ton of time, which equates to money. It saves the CROs a ton of time and money, and it really makes things easier for the staff, because the 1572 doesn't need to be set, dealing with, keeping track of all the CVs and all the GCP training and, so on and so forth, financial disclosures and all this stuff. So one of the other thing that I was, speaking to, which can really help, and this is really across any business, it doesn't matter where you work or how, institution, small site, big site, CRO or sponsor, if you're not using a project management software of some kind and your to-do list is dictated by your inbox, you're facing some challenges, undoubtedly. So there's a couple of options, that are out there. Slack and Asana are two of the best ones. Sorry, hold on just a second.
Sorry, everyone, for the technical difficulties. I have been getting a few inquiries of the difficulty in hearing Neil, so if you guys are having trouble after he comes back, just let me know. Elise, I'm not sure if you want to jump in on any of this as well.
Hey, sorry, guys. The joys of working from your home office, because you have a dog. So, can you hear me, Elise? Or can you hear me, Simone?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. So Asana and Slack are incredibly useful tools that can really help you keep track of your priorities and templates, like I was mentioning. It allows you to really create a process, copy it, and duplicate it. That way, you're not everything yourself. Password keepers are the next substantial beneficial software tool. LastPass and RoboForm allow you to save all your passwords, but also they embed within the software programs you use. So they actually will load onto your computer, your iPad, your iPhone, your Android, your tablet. Where you log into a system, it will automatically pull up, and you can use your thumbprint to log in. You don't have to use the same password for all these different programs. You can use one main password, and then it logs you into everything. So LastPass and RoboForm both integrate with apps as well as websites and other software tools, so that you're not saving all of your passwords into an Excel document, which then from a security perspective, the Excel document can be really a huge exposure if somebody can get into that Excel document or if you lose track of it. But also you have to constantly update it. So you have to have access to that Excel document in some capacity from all of your different devices, no matter where you are. LastPass is free. RoboForm is also free, depending on the different level of tool or service that you actually want to use. So anyway, they're lifesavers if you're in clinical research, in my opinion. They can really save you a ton of time. Okay, so the IE criteria, keeping track of what options there are, or what trial options you have while you're actually trying to randomize or trying to refer patients, pre-screen patients. Having all of that available in a mobile app becomes really beneficial. So, I'm one of the co-founders of Research Hive, so obviously that's speaking to this topic. There's, the ability to have a current and constantly updated list of IE criteria for all of your enrolling trials on your cell phone can really be a game changer when you're trying to figure out which patients qualify for what trials. So having that information while also having contact information for who your medical monitor is, who your on-site monitor might be, all of your study documents, so informed consent form, visit summaries, lab manuals, all that can be actually in your phone, readily available as you're moving around the clinic and as you're moving around the city, depending on how many different offices are being covered. But also the study summary. So, knowing why you're doing a trial, we always encourage sites to keep track of the whole justification for a study, because it's that justification that's going to help you have the conversation with a potential study subject about why they would participate. So if you know the purpose of each of your trials, it can be a one-sentence purpose. That goes a long way when you're talking to a subject about volunteering for that same trial. So this is basically an image of the app as it works. So it might be a little bit choppy on your end, depending on the internet connection. But you can see where you click on a particular trial, and you can see IE criteria from within your app. You can read all the details and see everything you need to see, all from your cell phone. Pretty simple, but really effective. And then there's the refer button down there at the bottom, which is where, that's the whole driver. It's the whole purpose of doing research, is to get patients into trials. So that referral piece becomes really important, because the ability to send a referral, and what I mean by a referral would be a physician or any provider being able to tell a coordinator a patient's name, medical record number, phone number, anything that will trigger that coordinator or research assistant to then be able to call that patient and schedule them for a visit. That's what drives the whole research industry, is getting those patients into the research department. Without something like this, you're relying on a fax, a text, an email, a phone call, and then there's no way to track it from either side. But if you're a physician who refers a patient for a trial, and that patient is received by the coordinator, you know it's received, and then when that coordinator goes to call that patient, it updates the doctor to tell them, and that closes the entire loop of communication, so the doctor is more willing to send more patients. So having that ability all within one system without having to constantly communicate back and forth by calling the physician, say, hey, your patient's now scheduled, really makes it easy and simple and encourages more referrals. And we really feel like if you can get physicians themselves to talk to their patients and refer patients directly, then your research department can grow substantially because they're the ones with the relationship with the patient. So the more often those doctors have that conversation, the better off you're going to be. So this is how that process works within Research Hive. You click on a study, and that study, you pull up the study details, and then there's a refer button, like I mentioned. I don't know how smooth it is coming through the internet to be able to see the actual function, but you can type in a patient's name, you can type in a phone number, you can add comments, and it goes right to the coordinators. What a lot of physicians do, or most, is they just take a photograph of either a computer screen, a face sheet, a wristband, and then refer the patient with a photograph. And then they're done. That goes into a list of referrals, and everybody on the team knows which referrals are actionable because all the coordinators get that referral who are assigned to that trial, and then it shows up as a new referral. Any one of the people on the team can update that referral, and it'll tell the doctor, hey, we've scheduled your patient, or hey, your patient randomized, or they screen failed. It'll tell them directly within the app, so doesn't have to be a lot of back and forth between everybody. And again, that just drives more referrals because the provider knows, if I spend 5 minutes talking to this patient about a trial, I'm 100% certain that my study team is going to call them and take action. There's no chance of that person getting lost or forgotten because it's all right there and it's all transparent to everybody on the team. So that's it for my piece. Sorry for the interruption with my pup, but I'm going to turn it over to Elise and let her talk more about CTMS specifically and real-time.
Also, we've had some great feedback so far. Any questions, I'm going to hold them until the end just so that we don't delay during the presentation. But Elise, you've got the floor.
Hi. Okay, great. Thank you, Neil. Good stuff. I think I'm definitely guilty of having some password sticky notes all around my desk. I could probably benefit from a password management system. So yes, my name is Elise Tawfiq. I am the product manager of the Global Pay and Text features here at RealTime. And so today I am going to talk about in-depth more about technology and how it can help your site. So I want to dig deep and really go into how you can use technology to really help you improve retention and recruitment. I'm going to talk about text messaging keyword campaigns and how your site can use keyword campaigns to engage your existing database and reach out to the community. We'll also talk about how using automated text appointment reminders can improve a subject's experience in a study, helping you with retention and study timelines. And finally, I'd like to talk about the benefits of using alternative pay methods to compensate your subjects for their participation. So if you're using a CTMS currently, or you're thinking about implementing a CTMS, these are some of the things that you should consider when you're looking at a system, what it can do for you and how it can help you. A CTMS should be a valuable tool that your site utilizes to help ease the process of completing tasks that come along with conducting clinical research. It shouldn't be a portal that your staff loathe logging into. It should be something that they really see as a useful tool. And so some of those tools within your CTMS would be for you to be able to capture medical history and then search that history. And then once you search that medical history in your database, being able to send out mass text messages to your database based upon criteria that you're looking for. You should have the ability to link up your website to your CTMS. So people can go on your website, see the studies that you're conducting, click on a study, apply for it, and then their application is routed into your CTMS as a non-contacted interested candidate, and then your staff receives an email notification to contact these subjects and screen them further. You should also have the ability to integrate your Facebook ads. So when someone clicks on a Facebook ad, that application goes directly into your CTMS. If you're using a text platform, you should be able to send automated appointment reminders, use keywords, mass text your database. We're going to talk a lot about that in a minute. And then also if you're using an integrated pay program, you should be able to instantly issue stipends. This helps prevent fraud. You're not issuing checks. So we'll talk about that as well. And then if you're using an eDocs or an e-regulatory system, it should be Part 11 compliant. It should completely replace your paper regulatory binders. You should be able to utilize electronic signatures and also keep up all of your training and qualification records. And it should really help streamline your regulatory process. And then if you're using any type of mobile app that links up to your CTMS, you should have the ability to have thumbprint signatures. So if a physician receives a document that they need to sign, they can actually open this with the mobile app, review the document, and sign with their thumbprint. So, did you get my text? Chances are they did, right? These statistics are pretty amazing. 98% of text messages are opened and nearly 90% are read within the first 3 minutes. Also, 8 out of 10 18 to 14-year-olds have their smartphones on them as many as 22 hours per day. As my kids get older and they don't have cell phones yet, this statistic scares me a little bit, to be honest. But if you are looking at this as a site, this is definitely an opportunity for you to reach patients. And so constant availability translates into significantly higher response rates from patients, resulting in much hotter leads. Mobile marketing has really become one of the most efficient forms of advertising available. And campaigns that were once centered around daily email blasts have now evolved into a more convenient way of SMS texting. So whenever you are looking to do a study and you're starting your pre-screening recruitment activities, you spend a lot of time searching for qualified research subjects. And you probably have a lot of conversations over the course of the study. Probably thousands of conversations you have to find qualified candidates. These are very valuable conversations you have. You spend a lot of time and money trying to get qualified people in the door. So you should be maximizing these efforts and capturing as much medical history as you can during these conversations. Most of the people that you speak with aren't going to qualify for your study. But if you spend the time capturing their medical history and they're interested in learning more about future studies at your site, this is all valuable information you should hold on to and be able to utilize when you're recruiting for a study. So with an SMS text platform, your site should be able to send out mass study alerts to your database to inform subjects of new studies at your site. Patients should be able to reply indicating their interest. These replies should flow back into your platform. Your sites should be notified via text and or email that they have a qualified subject or a potential subject to contact. So keywords. If you're not familiar with keywords, I'm sure you've seen examples of them in your community. Businesses can use keywords to engage the community to connect with them. I saw an example of a keyword yesterday at the car wash I go to. They had a big banner out that said, text bubbles to 52411 to receive offers and discounts from the Bubble Bath Car Wash. In light of the recent tragic flooding that's happened in Texas currently, I'm sure heard the Red Cross saying, you know, text Harvey to 9411 to donate, or news media outlets are using Harvey to disseminate information to the public. So for research sites, by utilizing a keyword, your site can engage the community to connect, stay informed of what's going on at your site. Sites and sponsors can use keywords for community marketing to bring awareness to your studies. So, for example, if your site does a lot of COPD trials, you may want to use the word COPD in all of your promotional materials. A keyword just gives your subjects another way to connect with you and contact you. There are also some rules, FCC regulations regarding the opt-in process or the consent process to receive study alerts or notifications. And when a subject sends in the keyword to you, they're initiating that process, and that is what the FCC likes to see, that they signed up to receive these alerts. So when they send in the keyword to your site, they'll also get a confirmation text back generated by the system that welcomes them to your site's study alerts.
Elise, do you want to release the poll?
Yes, let's do the poll.
Okay, so the question is your site using SMS text messaging to connect with your subject database? We'll leave it open for about 20 seconds. About 10 more seconds. Might have lost track of my count. Okay, looks like we're getting a few more. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll now. Elise, can you see the results? Elise?
I'm sorry, I'm not able to see the poll.
Oh, that's okay. We have 41% yes, 47% no, and 12% not yet.
Okay, good deal. All right, so really the power of text, if you're using a text platform, these are the things that it should do for you. You should be able to mass text your database, and they should be able to reply. All of those conversations should be documented. You should be able to use keywords. Also, it should automate the appointment reminder process, and this is really helpful for sites. A lot of sites spend a lot of time calling people, trying to confirm their appointment, not getting them on the phone. Then the subject has to call you back, and so that takes a lot of time. When you go into a system and schedule an appointment, it should automate the appointment reminder process. They'll receive a text message with the date and time of their appointment. They have this stored in their phone. They can reference it back. Again, they don't have to call you to ask when their appointment is. And we find that this reduces no-shows and increases retention. You can stay engaged with your subjects. You should be able to go into a text platform system and text them directly from the system, anything you want. You know, are you coming to your appointment still? Are you running late? We see a lot of sites using it for recruitment when maybe a subject has applied online for a study. You've tried calling them 3 times and you can't get them on the phone, but you can send them a text and say, we tried to call you about the study. Are you still interested? What is a good time to connect with you? We see a lot of subjects using it to contact the site when they have questions about anything going on in the study, if they have to fast for a visit, if they're running late for an appointment. And so you don't have to actually log into your system to see these. You should be getting an email notification letting you know of the text, and that's how you're notified. And we just find a lot of sites are having really great success connecting with subjects via text versus the traditional phone calls. Okay, so now I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about compensation. What are the most common reasons you think a subject volunteers for a study? I hear a lot of things. The medical care that they receive, the potential to try a new therapy, just to volunteer for something. Also the compensation. So I think we are going to take another poll right now and ask how you're currently compensating your subjects.
Elise, you want to give some background on some of these? And we'll keep the poll
Sure.
open for just a few more seconds.
So as I talk to sites, very few use cash, some do. A lot of people still use paper checks. More and more sites are transferring to a stipend card program due to the security. I have sites call me, probably I have one a month, maybe less, call me and said that there's fraud on their bank account. So when you pay with paper checks, you're essentially giving out to all of your subjects your bank account number and the signature of the authorized person on the account. And so you don't really have a business relationship with your subjects, and so you may not know them very well personally, and so this can be a risk where you know, they could potentially create false identification and get money out of the account, and this has happened with several of our sites. So when you adopt a card program, this can help eliminate that. I have some sites that are telling me they pay with direct deposit or like a PayPal method. This doesn't always work because not every subject has a bank account. So I'm interested to see how everybody is currently compensating their subjects. Do you want to release the results?
Yep, I actually did just a few seconds ago. It looks like we have 4% cash, 54% paper check, and 41% reloadable debit and credit card, and 0% direct deposit.
0. Okay, good. Okay, so if you are thinking about using a stipend card program or you're already using one, here are some of the things that it can help you with. On-time payments with giving the subjects easy access to funds. I find more and more the sites that are really successful with getting people in the door, reducing no-shows, are the sites that have the flexibility to pay the subject at the visit or when the visit's completed. Not all sites can do this, especially with paper checks. You can't really stop, cut a check, go find the person that you need to sign it, and have them sign it. The sites that pay with paper checks are traditionally mailing these payments out. Sometimes, you know, the subject has to wait weeks to receive their stipend. They're calling your office wondering where it was. You have to follow up to make sure the check was cashed. So that administrative process can be quite tedious. With a stipend card program, your coordinator can complete the visit, mark it as complete, and either the coordinator or somebody more in an admin role can go in, pay the visit, and the card is instantly loaded. And your subjects will receive a text message or an email letting them know that their card was loaded. So you don't have to notify them that their card was loaded. They'll be automatically notified. And that's really handy if you want to batch pay a whole bunch of subjects on one day. You can do so as well. If you're using a card program, the subjects should also have the ability to monitor their own account. So they should have like an online portal that they can log into, look at their transactions, look at their balance. That's really helpful for them as well. And I touched on this a minute ago, but some of the reasons traditional payment forms are being phased out is fraud, security, also just ease of reloading a card. These cards are not study specific, so if you have a subject that wants to participate in multiple studies at your site, they can utilize this card across those studies as well. And as we all know, happy subjects are more compliant. When they're paid on time, they'll come in for their visits, they'll retain them in the study. So again, just to recap, payment platforms should be easy to use. They should simplify your payment process and reduce cost. They should save your staff time. And they should also eliminate any fraud. And lastly, this is a big one. When you go in and click and pay these cards, all of this information is stored, and you now have reporting tools at your fingertips based upon your stipend payments. You should be able to pull reports at a subject level to see all of their card loads or payments. You should be able to pull reports to look at a study, a global view of a study and all the payments you've made, and also just all the studies out. So in closing, here at RealTime, we are dedicated to constantly improving and developing our technology to better assist you and help you conduct clinical research. If you ever have any questions about how we could assist your site, we'd be more than happy to have that conversation with you. And I think that's all I have today. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions?
Okay, great. I know that we are at the end of our presentation. So thank you very much, Neil and Elise, for your very informative presentation today. We now have some time for questions. If you want to take a moment, you can submit your questions in the box on the right to be read out loud and be answered by our speakers. I know we got a lot of comments throughout, so I've been trying to read through those, and any questions I've been able to answer I've taken on. But we did have some. This one looks like it's directed to Neil. Does Research Hive connect with other applications such as Salesforce?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Currently, no, it doesn't, and really the primary reason is because of the HIPAA security aspect of Research Hive. We have to maintain HIPAA security, and Salesforce is not, at least to my knowledge. So we don't have a integration today. But if you're at a particular site that uses Salesforce in research, for patients and such, I've actually talked about it and see what your workflow looks like. You know, you can always start the process or start the conversation, especially if there's demand for that.
Sorry, Neil, you're breaking up a little bit again.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry, I don't know how much you heard, but all I said was I'd love to continue the conversation about an integration with Salesforce if it were HIPAA compliant, and it may be. I just may not be aware. The last time I looked, it was not, but it doesn't mean it isn't now, or there isn't a feature within Salesforce that would be. So if you're at a site using Salesforce, reach out to me, shoot me an email. Love to talk to you for 5 or 10 minutes and kind of see how it works for your site and what you're doing with it, and then we can figure out what we can or can't do to help you.
Okay, great. Looks like we have another question, and anyone who has questions, now would be the time to ask. We also have contact information up on the screen. Looks like this might be another one for Neil. Do people talking and connecting back and forth both have to have Research Hive downloaded on their phone? And is it only a phone platform, or can you view this on a computer/tablet?
Yeah, good question. So it works on iPad, iPhone, Android, and then also there's a desktop application. So if you're not on a cell phone, a lot of sites have concerns about all their staff using their cell phones for work purposes. You can access it through the internet from any computer, and we provide those links so that you can bookmark them on desktops. And all the communication going back and forth, it will work between a phone or the computer, the internet, website. And just to speak real briefly to the security aspect, if your concern is the security of the actual data on your staff's phones, do know that none of the data actually sits on the device. The device has to access the internet to actually be able to see the information in the app. So if you ever have somebody lose their phone or they leave the office, you simply remove their credentials and instantly they no longer have access to anything. So just to plug that real quick.
Okay, perfect. Looks like someone's trying to raise their hand. I'm not sure if you have a question, but if you do, feel free to email myself or whoever the question is directed to on the screen. We did get a few questions regarding the slides. Those will be provided in a follow-up email at the end of the webinar. An on-demand status or an on-demand option will also be present on the website after the presentation. But it looks like that's all the questions we have for today. Also, we are at closing time for the webinar. So, yep, like I said, please look forward to our follow-up email. We'll alert you on the on-demand status of today's event, and we can review material you missed or simply go over again. Also, please take a moment to fill out our short exit survey. So on behalf of ClinEdge and our presenters, thank you for joining us and taking the time to view our presentation. We hope you have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Simone.
Thanks. Bye.